Good day. Today I invite you to explore a profound topic, the concept of a weak point as it relates to women, or indeed to anyone. In the spirit of Stoic wisdom, let us discard shallow stereotypes and delve deeper into the human condition. What is a weak point? It is often perceived as a flaw, a vulnerability that can be exploited. But to the Stoic mind, such a view is incomplete. A weak point is not an indictment of one's character, but an opportunity for self-awareness, growth, and resilience. For every woman, a so-called weak point is often tied to her emotions, relationships, or societal expectations. The world, with its noise and distractions, may tell her that her sensitivity is a vulnerability or that her caring nature exposes her to harm. But the Stoics teach us that vulnerability, when approached with wisdom, is not weakness. It is strength waiting to be harnessed. Consider the Stoic principle of control. Focus only on what is within your power. A woman who is deeply empathetic may feel overwhelmed by the suffering of others, but the power lies in understanding that she cannot change the world's cruelty. She can only decide how she responds to it. Her compassion, balanced by reason, becomes her strength. Or take societal expectations, which can be an insidious weak point. Many women feel burdened by the pressure to conform, to meet impossible standards of perfection. Stoicism reminds us that the opinions of others are beyond our control and therefore irrelevant to our inner peace. A woman who recognizes this truth steps into a freedom that is unshakable. Then there is the matter of relationships, another area often labeled as a source of weakness. Love, trust, and connection require openness and risk. But to love wisely, with the courage to accept loss and the understanding that true fulfillment comes from within, transforms this perceived weakness into a profound strength. So, what is every woman's weak point? In truth, it is the same as every human's: the failure to recognize that her worth, peace, and power lie not in external validation, but in the mastery of her own mind and spirit. The Stoics urge us to embrace challenges, not as obstacles, but as the forge that shapes our character. What the world calls a weak point, let us redefine as a point of potential, for in every struggle lies the seed of virtue, and in every weakness the chance to grow stronger. Weakness, as perceived by many, is often a label that carries the weight of shame, inadequacy, or failure. It is easy to see weakness as an anchor holding us back from reaching our potential, a flaw in our character that diminishes our worth. But this perspective, while common, overlooks a profound truth. Weakness is not a limitation, it is a doorway to growth. This understanding, rooted in the teachings of Stoic philosophy, invites us to reframe how we view our vulnerabilities and challenges. When we consider weakness, we must first ask ourselves, what is it that we fear in our frailties? Often, weakness is tied to moments of struggle, failure, or exposure. It is the experience of feeling unprepared, insufficient, or incapable. Yet these moments, uncomfortable as they may be, are the crucible in which our true character is formed. Just as gold is refined through fire, so too are we refined through the trials that test our perceived limits. The discomfort of weakness is not an indication of failure, but a signal that growth is occurring. It is a reminder that the path to strength requires us to confront what we avoid, to embrace what we fear, and to endure what challenges us. Weakness is not static, it is dynamic. It evolves as we do. A weakness today may be the foundation of strength tomorrow. Consider the muscles of the body. When a muscle is worked beyond its comfort zone, it experiences micro-tears. This process, while painful, is necessary for growth. The muscle repairs itself, growing stronger than before. Similarly, the mind and spirit undergo a parallel process. When we face adversity or confront our limitations, we stretch the boundaries of what we thought possible. The discomfort we feel in these moments is not a sign of defeat, but of development. The Stoics understood this well. They taught that challenges, rather than being obstacles, are opportunities. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, often spoke of the transformative power of adversity. He reminded us that we are not disturbed by events themselves, but by our interpretations of them. When we see weakness as a flaw, it becomes a source of distress. But when we view it as an invitation to grow, it becomes a tool for transformation. The power lies not in changing our circumstances, but in changing our perspective. Weakness, then, is not an enemy but a teacher. To fully grasp the potential for growth within weakness, we must first cultivate self-awareness. Weakness is often most apparent when we step outside our comfort zones. It reveals itself in moments of uncertainty, failure, or vulnerability. These moments can be unsettling because they force us to confront parts of ourselves we might rather ignore. Yet in acknowledging our weaknesses, we gain the clarity to address them. Self-awareness allows us to see not only where we fall short, but also where we have the capacity to improve. It is the first step in turning weakness into strength. Growth requires effort and intentionality. Weakness does not transform into strength through wishful thinking or avoidance. It demands that we engage with it directly. This engagement is not a one-time act, but a continual process. It is the willingness to confront our fears, to make mistakes, and to fail forward. Each time we face a challenge and persevere, we build resilience. Resilience, in turn, enables us to face future challenges with greater confidence and competence. The process is cumulative. Small victories over our weaknesses compound over time, leading to significant personal growth. One of the greatest misconceptions about weakness is that it is inherently negative. In reality, weakness is a natural part of being human. It is not something to be ashamed of, but something to be embraced. To deny our weaknesses is to deny our humanity. Every person, no matter how accomplished, has areas where they struggle. What separates those who grow from those who stagnate is not the absence of weakness, but the willingness to confront it. Growth begins when we accept our imperfections and commit to improving upon them. There is a profound beauty in the journey from weakness to strength. It is a journey that requires humility, courage, and perseverance. Humility allows us to admit where we need to grow. It strips away the ego that seeks to protect us from discomfort and opens us to learning. Courage gives us the strength to face our weaknesses head-on, even when the path is uncertain or difficult. Perseverance keeps us moving forward, even when progress is slow or setbacks occur. Together, these qualities create the conditions for transformation. Weakness also has the power to connect us to others. When we acknowledge our vulnerabilities, we create space for empathy and understanding. It is through our shared struggles that we find common ground. The act of admitting our weaknesses can inspire others to do the same, fostering a sense of community and mutual support. In this way, weakness becomes not only a source of personal growth, but also a catalyst for collective growth. By embracing our imperfections, we create an environment where others feel safe to do the same. Moreover, weakness provides us with a unique perspective. It teaches us to approach life with a sense of gratitude and appreciation. When we overcome a weakness, we gain a deeper appreciation for the strength it took to do so. We learn to value the effort and perseverance that growth requires. This perspective allows us to approach future challenges with a sense of purpose and determination. It reminds us that growth is not about perfection, but about progress. The transformation of weakness into strength is not an overnight process. It requires patience and consistency. There will be moments of doubt and discouragement, times when progress feels slow or non-existent. But these moments are a natural part of the journey. They are not indications of failure, but opportunities to practice resilience. The path to growth is not linear. It is marked by ups and downs, successes and setbacks. Each step, no matter how small, brings us closer to our potential. The concept of weakness as a potential for growth challenges us to rethink our relationship with failure. Failure, like weakness, is often seen as a negative, yet failure is an essential part of the growth process. It is through our failures that we learn the most. Each failure provides valuable feedback, teaching us what works and what does not. When we view failure as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock, we open ourselves to new possibilities. Weakness and failure, far from being limitations, are the foundation upon which growth is built. Ultimately, the potential for growth lies not in the absence of weakness, but in our response to it. It is our willingness to face our challenges, to learn from them, and to persist in the face of adversity that determines our capacity for growth. Weakness is not a destination, it is a starting point. It is the place where growth begins, where potential is realized, and where strength is forged. Through self-awareness, effort, and resilience, we can transform our weaknesses into the very qualities that define our strength. Control and inner peace are intimately connected, forming the foundation for a fulfilled and balanced life. The search for inner peace is one of the deepest human pursuits, yet it often feels elusive in a world filled with uncertainty and constant change. At the heart of this quest lies the Stoic principle of control, which teaches us that serenity is not found in the external world, but within ourselves. Understanding what is within our control and what is not is the key to navigating life with clarity and equanimity. When we internalize this principle, we begin to cultivate a state of inner peace that remains steady, regardless of external circumstances. Control, as viewed through the lens of Stoicism, is not about dominance or manipulation of the outside world. It is about mastering our thoughts, emotions, and actions. The world is unpredictable, and events often unfold in ways that defy our expectations or desires. People may act in ways we cannot anticipate, and circumstances may arise that seem to conspire against us. In these moments, it is easy to feel powerless or overwhelmed. However, the Stoics remind us that while we cannot control the events themselves, we always retain control over how we respond to them. This distinction is liberating. By focusing on what is within our power, we free ourselves from the frustration and anxiety that come from trying to change what we cannot. Inner peace begins with the recognition that our true power lies in our response. Life will present us with challenges, setbacks, and disappointments, but these are not inherently the source of our suffering. Rather, it is our interpretation of these events and the meaning we assign to them that determines our emotional state. When we shift our focus from external events to our internal reactions, we reclaim our agency. No longer are we at the mercy of circumstances. Instead, we become the authors of our own experience. This is not to say that difficulties will cease to arise, but their power to disturb us diminishes as we strengthen our ability to respond with wisdom and composure. The principle of control also teaches us the importance of letting go. Much of our suffering arises from the desire to control the uncontrollable. We may wish for others to behave a certain way, for outcomes to align with our expectations, or for life to unfold without obstacles. These desires, while natural, are ultimately futile. The world operates independently of our wishes. When we cling to the illusion of control, we set ourselves up for frustration and disappointment. Letting go does not mean resigning ourselves to passivity or indifference. Instead, it is an acknowledgement of reality. It is the decision to invest our energy in what we can influence, our own thoughts, actions, and attitudes, rather than wasting it on what lies beyond our reach. Practicing control over our inner world requires self-discipline and mindfulness. It is not a passive process, but an active and intentional one. Each day presents opportunities to strengthen this discipline, whether through resisting the urge to react impulsively, choosing patience over anger, or embracing gratitude in the face of adversity. These small acts of self-mastery accumulate over time, building a foundation of inner peace that becomes unshakable. It is a process that demands effort but yields profound rewards. As we learn to control our inner world, we begin to see life with greater clarity and perspective. The noise of external distractions fades, and we find ourselves more present, more grounded, and more resilient. One of the most challenging aspects of practicing control is managing our emotions. Emotions are powerful forces that can cloud our judgment and lead us astray if left unchecked. Anger, fear, envy, and despair are all natural human experiences, but they need not control us. The Stoics believed that emotions are the result of our judgments and beliefs. If we perceive an event as harmful or unjust, we may feel anger or fear, but by examining and reframing our beliefs, we can change our emotional responses. This does not mean suppressing or denying our emotions, but understanding their source and choosing how to act upon them. Through this process, we transform emotional reactivity into emotional intelligence, a cornerstone of inner peace. Another critical element of control is aligning our actions with our values. When we act in accordance with our principles, we cultivate a sense of integrity and self-respect. This alignment fosters inner peace because it eliminates the inner conflict that arises from acting against our own moral compass. External circumstances may test our resolve, but if we remain true to our values, we retain a sense of stability and purpose. This is the essence of living a virtuous life, as the Stoics advocated. Virtue, they believed, is the highest good and the source of true happiness. By focusing on being just, courageous, temperate, and wise, we create a life that is both meaningful and peaceful. Control also extends to our thoughts. The mind is a powerful tool, but it can become a source of distress if left unmanaged. Negative thought patterns, such as rumination or catastrophizing, can erode our sense of peace. To regain control, we must practice awareness and discipline in our thinking. This involves observing our thoughts without judgment, questioning their validity, and replacing unhelpful patterns with constructive ones. The Stoics often used techniques such as visualization and journaling to reflect on their thoughts and align them with their values. By taking responsibility for our mental landscape, we cultivate a state of inner calm that is resistant to external turmoil. It is important to recognize that control and inner peace are not about achieving perfection. No one is immune to moments of doubt, frustration, or fear. The goal is not to eliminate these experiences, but to respond to them with grace and resilience. Each moment of challenge is an opportunity to practice and strengthen our commitment to control. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and we find ourselves more equipped to navigate life's uncertainties with confidence and ease. The pursuit of inner peace through control also involves embracing the present moment. Much of our anxiety stems from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. The past is unchangeable, and the future is uncertain. Yet our minds often fixate on these temporal realms, pulling us away from the here and now. The present moment, however, is the only space where we have true agency. It is where life unfolds, where choices are made, and where peace can be found. By anchoring ourselves in the present, we free ourselves from the burden of regret and anticipation. This practice of presence is a form of control, a deliberate choice to focus on what is real and immediate rather than what is speculative or imaginary. Control and inner peace also require a sense of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean passivity or resignation, but an acknowledgement of reality as it is. Life is full of uncertainties, and no amount of planning or effort can eliminate them entirely. By accepting the unpredictability of life, we release ourselves from the constant struggle to control outcomes. This acceptance creates space for peace, as we no longer expend energy resisting what is beyond our power to change. Instead, we channel our efforts into what truly matters, living with integrity, kindness, and wisdom. The connection between control and inner peace is not a theoretical concept but a practical one. It is a way of living that can be cultivated through daily practice. Each decision, no matter how small, is an opportunity to exercise control over our inner world. Whether it is choosing patience in a moment of frustration, gratitude in a moment of disappointment, or courage in a moment of fear, these choices shape our character and deepen our sense of peace. The journey is not always easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. As we develop our capacity for control, we discover that inner peace is not a destination to be reached, but a state to be cultivated moment by moment. Vulnerability, a word often laden with connotations of fragility and exposure, has long been misunderstood. To be vulnerable is to be open. It is to acknowledge that life, with all its unpredictability and imperfection, cannot be controlled. This openness requires courage, for it exposes us to uncertainty, rejection, and failure. But in this exposure lies the possibility of growth. When we shield ourselves from vulnerability, we may feel safer, but we also limit our potential. Growth requires stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and embracing the discomfort of not knowing the outcome. Vulnerability, then, is not a sign of weakness, but of bravery. It is a willingness to face life with authenticity and resilience, even when the stakes are high. At its core, vulnerability is a reflection of our humanity. To be human is to be imperfect, to have fears and doubts, and to long for connection and understanding. In acknowledging our vulnerability, we honor this shared humanity. We recognize that no one is immune to pain, failure, or loss. This recognition fosters empathy and compassion, both for ourselves and for others. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that the very things that make us feel vulnerable also connect us to those around us. When we redefine vulnerability as a strength, we create a space where authenticity can thrive. There is immense power in embracing vulnerability. It allows us to be honest about who we are, rather than pretending to be invulnerable or perfect. This honesty is liberating. It frees us from the burden of maintaining a facade and enables us. This self-awareness is a cornerstone of personal growth. By facing our vulnerabilities, we gain the clarity to address them, to learn from them, and to use them as a source of strength. Vulnerability also deepens our relationships. Authentic connections are built on trust, and trust requires openness. When we allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are, we invite others to do the same. This mutual vulnerability creates a bond that is both genuine and enduring. It fosters a sense of safety and understanding, where we can share our fears, dreams, and imperfections without fear of judgment. In this way, vulnerability becomes a bridge that connects us to others on a profound level. It transforms relationships from superficial interactions into meaningful connections that enrich our lives. The fear of vulnerability often stems from a desire to protect ourselves from pain. We fear rejection, criticism, or failure, and so we build walls to shield ourselves. These walls may provide a sense of security, but they also isolate us. They prevent us from experiencing the fullness of life, both its joys and its challenges. When we redefine vulnerability, we see that these walls are not necessary. Instead of viewing vulnerability as a risk, we can see it as an opportunity. It is a chance to grow stronger, to build deeper connections, and to embrace